Hello and welcome to They Might Be Racing. I'm Tiffany and this is Jody. And today we're going to be working again on the 1969 Austin Healey Sprite. On our last video we kind of took a first look at the car, took stock of everything we had. And then we kind of put everything back together and just to see where everything was at. And today we're going to
work on the electrical systems, in particular the lighting. Now, the reason why I always recommend tackling your lighting first is that it is a great opportunity for folks who have never really worked on a car before to very slowly and comfortably get into the role of working. And the reason why we do this is that the lights encompass many of the different activities you'll do on restoring a car. Everything from dealing with wiring and electrical through sandblasting and painting, or polishing chrome. It really covers the gamut. So we're going to start today at the front of the car. Tiffany's going to take one side, I'm going to take the other, and we're going to go through taking out the headlights, the turn signals, and then we'll shift to the back of the car and we will remove all the lighting from the rear. So we'll go ahead and start out. So on cars of this vintage, the headlamp is held in primarily by this retaining ring here. On this particular generation, there is a flathead screw on the bottom of the ring. And so what you need to do is get a flathead screwdriver in there and twist it loose. And sometimes a long handle screwdriver will get in there well, sometimes a short handle screwdriver will get in there well. So basically, once you've got that done,
I believe this has a Phillips head.
Well, and this is the other thing that you find as we start disassembling things is that, when people put things together in the past, they've used the wrong stuff. So if it is a Phillips head, go grab yourself a Phillips head. Once that retaining screw has been removed, ring pops right off. You can see on the bottom where the screw was. It gives you a chance to kind of take a look at it and see what the quality of it is, what type of shape it's in. But for right now, we'll set that down. Now, inside here, there is another trim ring. You've got your headlamp. You got three, there should be three, where's the third one hiding? 3 screws holding this retaining trim in. In this case, it does also happen to be Phillips head, so we'll get a Phillips head, take that out. So, as I said, start removing the 3 screws. Now, one of the things I also recommend when you're doing this at home is for every step you take doing this, you go ahead and use a digital camera to take a photograph. One of the nice things about working on British cars is that basically every British car, or most every British car made from this time period, I'll use the exact same Lucas bits. So these headlamp assemblies are pretty much the same, whether it's a Healey, a Sprite, a Healey, an MG, Triumph, they're all basically the same. So once you get that 3 screws out, you can remove the retaining ring trim. You can then lift your bulb out. Now, depending on the generation, and depending on what's happened to it over the years, you will have different styles of connectors in the back here. Here you can see on this particular harness, we have a very old period phenolinic type connector, 3 prongs in the back of the bulb. So we'll go ahead and set that down. Now the next thing we want to do is get out the headlamp base and then the bucket that sits behind it. So this base piece is held in with flathead screws. Again, there should be 3 of them. Basically, you start loosening them up, and depending on the condition, because these screws are actually used to adjust the pitch of the headlamp, you should, let's see, this one's got 2. You should be able to just pop that out. other thing you have to do is remove the spring. If you don't want to do that, you can just remove the base screws, if you can get them. This doesn't always work. So this particular card doesn't seem to work very well. So, get in here with a pair of pliers and release this retaining spring that never seems to want to come out easily. There we go. Once you get that retaining spring out, this should pull right out. Spring. So the next thing you've got are the screws holding the main headlamp housing to the car body. We'll go ahead and remove those. So with all the screws out, the headlamp bucket pops right out. You'll see there's a plastic gasket here that goes between the headlamp body and the car body. Now, as I mentioned before, this has had some dodgy wiring done on it. You can see it better now. To be perfectly honest, the wiring that I've seen in the front end of this car is sketchy at best. And I've learned my lesson over the years. Don't try to reuse sketchy wiring harnesses. Just bite the bullet and get the proper one. So we're just going to go ahead and trim these wires off, because we're going to need to get a new pigtail anyways. And at that point, the headlamp is out. Now, on this Sprite, you see we got this other lamp down here. This one. We'll go ahead and do the same thing down here. There are two screw nut combinations that are holding this in place. So, 10mm socket on the back side, screw on the driver on the front side, and we're good. So Tiffany's been having quite a chuckle at my expense tonight. Basically, here I am saying, well, this is the really easy part to do, shouldn't be any problems at all. And here I am completely thwarted by two lights on the front of a car. So basically, you know, after we got this one out and we got all that mess to deal with, I went to go pull out the lower turn signal indicator lamp, only to discover that somebody at some point in time had actually riveted this to the body of the car, because the studs that used to come off the back of this housing to go through the holes in the body are no longer there. So I guess they just decided, oh, I think I know what I'll do. I'll pop some studs in, pop some rivets into the car. That'll solve everything. That's a great idea. So, at any rate, seeing as this housing is toast, I don't see a point in saving any of this wiring either. Basically, the whole thing is pretty toasty. So at this stage, on this side of the car, we have moved the headlight, moved the turn signal indicator. Tiffany's working on her side. Once she gets done, we'll go ahead and shift to the back. Alright, after we get done fighting with the front, we're now around the back. Now the first thing you got to do is disconnect the wiring harness. And on the back, there's a series of just little either bullet connectors, like on the main lights, or actual plugs on the reverse lights. I can't remember if there is an easy way to get the license plate light or not, but once you've got those off, the next thing to do is to start taking things off. Now, a lot of this had already been disassembled when we bought the car, so last night, rather than finding rusty old screws and screwing things back into place, we cheated and used a little bit of painter's tape. So there we got the lens off. Now, with the reverse lamp, there are normally screws and nuts that go all the way through. Those were gone. So you just pop the reverse lamp out, tear the gasket off the body. So, next you've got your blinker and tail light. Normally this is screwed in at the bottom and you kind of lift it out and up. Here, ours was just set into place. So you got your two lenses. If you push out the back, you've got two lenses. Bottom of this one should have a reflector in it. You normally have a bunch of bulbs here. As you can see, they're not here. But you've got three integrated rivet pieces in here. So if you go and look on the interior, you will see three nuts on the back side that need to be loosened. So, as I remember, they are in the 10 millimeter range. But considering my luck of late, all that is gospel. And they're also fairly deep, so you may have trouble getting a socket wrench on them. Oop, seems to be okay. So these should just kind of bust loose and then spin freely. And they're a funky type of castle nut, crown nut. I'll show you one in a second. Now these little guys, they're pretty funky little nuts. So at any rate, you got three of them on the back. Just go ahead and knock those three loose. Fun one to get to is the one at the top. If I remember correctly, having a extension of decent length helps you reach up and in to get that guy. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish removing this, and then we'll come back and we'll tackle that. So here's the taillight piece removed. Here is the wiring that I was talking about. These use the bullet style connectors. And all of your nuts, set those down. Now, this little tail lamp guy, there's normally a screw that goes in here, holds the glass and the trim in place. And then from there, if I can remember correctly, there should be a relatively easy way of removing this. Yes, these are in 10-ish millimeter on the side here, and the wiring is actually integrated in here. So you pull these bullets out, and they will get fed back through. and then you just remove the nuts on the back side. Alright, so now we've got everything off. You can look down here, you'll see we've got all the goodies on the table in front of us. Now, this is one of the most annoying lighting removals I've seen in a long time. If you come in closer, you can see some of the dilemmas we faced. So, for starters, you know, the directional rings seem to be okay, but we have butchered, you know, pigtails. We have some of the most interesting collections of screws that were used to hold the stuff in place. This particular headlamp bucket actually has a great big huge screw going through the back of it to hold the retaining clip in there for the spring, and that's totally the wrong spring. There's no way in hell anyone ever was able to set that lamp correctly. This is all garbage. Add the fact that all the edges on this are knackered and it's pretty well toast, along with our collection of screws and such. So at least the that piece is salvageable. The trim ring looks like it'll polish up. We'll have to polish it and find out what'll happen. The inner trim ring, it's got a couple of nice wangs in it. We'll have to see if we can bend those back out and clean it up. Bulbs may or may not be good. Considering the age, I'm probably just going to pitch them and put new ones. The rubbers are toast. On the driver's side, where I had all of my fun, we have a similar setup. At least there are no funky screws to the bottom of this bucket, but if you come in close and look, you can see all the damage. This is just a headlamp bucket, and look at the damage that has occurred to this thing over the years. This is also going to have to get pitched and replaced. The chrome, the trim on this one was okay. This part of the bucket seems to be okay, needs to be cleaned up. Now we went into the front turn signals. That may polish up. The lens may clean up. I don't see any major cracks in it. This was the one that they had riveted to the body. That's garbage. This was the one that was on the wife's side of the car. They had butchered the wiring harness behind it. That's garbage. This lens is about the same as the other lens, so they may clean up. Now with lenses, if you have to replace one, replace both, because otherwise they'll look goofy. The trim looks like it'll clean up okay. We move to the back of the car, and we're missing some of the hold downs for this. The lamp itself looks okay. We will have to separate it from this body here. There's actually two little nuts way deep in that. Then we can paint this the body color. The reverse lamp bodies look okay, but the lenses are toast, so we're going to have to replace those. Now this collection of lenses that we've got is all sorts of different, you know, we're going to have to go see if we can clean all this stuff, polish it up. The bodies themselves are pretty good. These look like they were probably replaced at some point because they are far better off than the rest of the car, so these should be reusable, as well as the spear surrounds. So we get to keep maybe 50% of our lighting system. We're going to have to replace the rest of it. The other thing we need to do is all of those gaskets that you saw as we were doing the removals. We'll have to order all the gaskets. So the next step is to clean up the lenses. The way I like to do that is throw it through the dishwasher first, then you can try to polish them. Polish up the bright work using some cleaner. We're going to have to go scouting around, see if we can find some new buckets because these are toast. If you get used ones, you want to sandblast and clean them up, repaint them. But basically, we're kind of starting from scratch here. So next time we will, the next part of this video, we will get all the cleaned up stuff and put all of this back together again and store it away.
Through the magic of video editing, we now have what you see here before you. We've taken stock of everything and set it out nicely. We've gone through, figured out what we don't have, and highlighted it, gone ahead and placed the orders for those. Anything that was too damaged or that we didn't have. What we did already have, we've cleaned, we've polished, we've restored, like the headlamp buckets here, lenses, we've cleaned and polished those. Some of the parts we still need to find, like the front turn stop lamp base, so we'll be looking for that. We've also have a pile of parts here that after cleaning and polishing, the chrome parts are a little pitted, so we're going to go ahead and send those off to the chromer. Once we've already placed our order, everything's come in. So we've gone through and sorted all of these and placed them in bags and sorted by assembly. We also went ahead and ordered these super bright headlamps and a special wiring harness for those, which we'll cover in a later video. So we have all the bits, but we're not going to reassemble them right now because some of them have to be put into the body of the car. But we are just going to go ahead and keep them here for storage labeled, and they'll go into a specially labeled tote. So all headlamps and things will go right in here for when we are ready to use them. Okay, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.